and he and his family own Avenger Timber. He's the president and CEO, and he runs that as well as working for us in the state house. And he's a graduate of Vanderbilt University, and he also attended and graduated from Trinity Ministerial Academy. And so I would just ask you to give him a warm welcome, and let's hear what he has to say.
Thank you, Sharon. It's a privilege to be with you today, to be back here in East Texas. I was telling my assistant, Alex Stolley, that we live in a unique place. When you're outside in Texas, you leave your coat off. When you come inside, you put it on and you take off your hat. It's a joy to be here, especially now that the session has ended. Taken a nap and celebrated 30 years of marriage. And glad to be running this race as a candidate for the state Senate. And I hope to talk to you about some issues that are very important for Northeast Texas. First of all, I'd just like to say that the issues today are not so much obtaining or arriving at the knowledge of knowing what is right to do. It's actually having the courage to go ahead and do it. If you remember David Crockett, he had a saying. He said, "Be sure you're right, then go ahead." And I think that's very important for us in this point in time in our history. We do need to make sure we're right, that we're not arrogant, that we listen, we stay in touch with the people, we engage them, we hear their concerns, we come back and live with them and by them and live under the laws that we have made and see the effects of them. But then we need to actually go ahead and lead and do what is right, even if you have to stand alone. One of the issues that we've already talked a little bit about with respect to the border, we're all in agreement on securing the border. But one of the things we have got to do is what things we can do here as a state. When I went down there, I spent a week with my family traveling from Brownsville to Presidio. And I interviewed people, and one of the first things that a Hispanic woman who was here legally said to me is, "You've got to stop the freebies. You've got to stop all those health benefits that people just come over as soon as they're ready to have their baby and come into the hospital. We have got to eliminate benefits for non-citizens except for critical health care. And we have got to get out of that. There's a place for charity, but it's an individual and church responsibility." During that trip, I interviewed some Border Patrolmen and also some DPS officers, and both affirmed that the federal government does not apprehend smugglers when there's less than 6 people that they're smuggling. They just don't have the resources. That's basically their instruction. And I think our state needs to pick up the slack, and we need to prosecute all human smuggling, that we protect those people from those who are taking advantage of them. And we need to do the same for criminal trespass. Those are things we can do as a state. And I've also been a firm advocate of stopping our corporate welfare. And the reason why that relates is because until we gain the moral high ground with respect to corporate welfare and ending that legal theft of taking from one and giving to another, we will never have the moral high ground to stop social welfare, where we encourage people to be dependent upon the government, where we pay people not to work. And that's one of the things that are attracting illegals into this country. I believe in a high fence to stop illegal immigration. I am opposed to amnesty. If we don't uphold the rule of law, our country is going to be like those which those people are fleeing in Central America. I also believe in a broad bridge where people who can come legally, who fear God, who are hardworking, who honor our laws and not be dependent upon the government. There's a place for mind and muscles. But we need to oppose those who come illegally, and we need to send them back. If they have a criminal record, they don't need to come back, period. We need to enforce the rule of law, and there's much we can do as a state. And I also worked with Senator Bob Hall on the Interstate Compact. I tried to get the bill heard. I worked with Matt Schaefer and also with Representative Dan Huberty to seek to see that that bill was heard in committee. Regrettably, it was not. One of the other things that we need to do is we need to continue to shine a light on our process. Some people have called for a constitutional convention, and I believe in that remedy of Article 5. However, our problem right now, not only in Washington and in Austin, is that document. It is upholding the present laws that we have. And if we're just going to send people who are going to continue to ignore them, it's not going to solve the problem. We passed numerous laws that were retroactive in complete violation of both the state and the federal Constitution. Again and again, I went to the mic and I brought points of order to change that and to bring it to show people that if we pass this bill, if we don't amend it, we are violating the Constitution. A few of those times I was successful, but more than often than I like to think, we failed in that regard. And right now, I've called for the governor and the lieutenant governor and the speaker not to acquiesce in our decision to allow, or not our decision, state agencies' decisions that consulted with their offices to pay benefits to same-sex partners. When we made our appropriation, it was a violation to pay those benefits. And the Supreme Court may have the opportunity to make a decision in the case, but it should never have the opportunity to force us to make an appropriation. That is our duty. And we should not write checks. We should stand up for the rule of law. We can do that. And I have asked the governor to call a special session to deal with those expenditures which violate our Constitution. And were not included in that appropriation.